It appears these campaigns are carefully plotted, just like major theater war, only instead of a visible military force, industrial infrastructure is used to launch the attacks. Missiles, tanks, bullets, and bombs are replaced with frac towers, flare stacks, pipelines, tailing storage facilities, heavy-duty vehicles, petroleum containers, and other industrial equipment that disperse toxic industrial materials to cause environmental destruction and biological disease. In addition, this infrastructure generates a psychologically hostile environment by way of chronic noise, frequent movement, noxious odor, bright light, and scenery degradation. I speculate that these campaigns are organized by C4ISR, featuring electronic telepathy that virtually puts decision makers in the battle space, where they are in direct contact with what I call tactical pollution teams. C4ISR, that stands for Command Control, Communications, Computers, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, has been referred to as the central nervous system of a military campaign. It allows for ultra-fast data sharing among interconnected nodes that function as a single fighting force. Data is acquired from sensors and other inputs and processed with automated decision making. The instructions are then transmitted to in-theater nodes because of the advanced technology in use. The transmission of new attack instructions based on constant battlespace monitoring may be virtually instantaneous. There's a strategic level group overseeing these global campaigns, composed of decision makers and funders. In Chapter 15, I'll talk about some of the people who I think form part of this faction. There's also a battle space level formation of unconventional warfighters carrying out the attacks. These people aren't traditional soldiers wearing camouflage utilities. Rather, they include some corporate employees who are used as surrogate forces. I surmise these corporate warfighters are receiving orders via C4ISR to sabotage equipment, orchestrate disasters, stand down during attacks in progress, stage rail and vehicular accidents to contaminate specific natural resources, dispense non-lethal weapons at exact times, and perform other activities that further environmental and socio-cultural disruption. Although automated systems are probably being used to direct these individuals on the tactical level, I think there's an operational faction coordinating these campaigns, besides the strategic level group that I just covered. Someone is mapping out these targets and conducting the attacks. To determine who that might be, I'll present the salient features of this program that will allow us to more easily narrow down the suspects. These are some of its attributes. Many governments are complicit in this campaign. Severe human rights abuses are committed. Civilians are ruthlessly targeted. there are signs of intelligence military involvement. Resistors are terrorized, tortured, and murdered by industrial corporations and their governments that have formed an alliance. It's a clandestine operation. Both the public and typically the host community are unaware that they are targeted for ecological warfare. To find out who is coordinating an international campaign that exhibits these traits, I'd ask who has done similar things in the past. Agencies like the CIA, FBI, MI6, FSB, and Mossad have been involved in these sorts of activities known as black operations. A black operation is a clandestine or covert program run by factions of a government, military, and intelligence agency. These operations are usually unethical and illegal. Groups that are confirmed to conduct these activities include MI6, Mossad, FBI, CIA, FSB, and other intelligence agencies. The CIA, for example, has a gruesome history that includes mind control projects, cocaine and opium trafficking, black operations, and unconventional warfare. The agency has overthrown many governments and installed murderous tyrants. The CIA has been known to provoke violence, misery, economic poverty, and food shortages in the areas that it operates. The CIA's involvement with governments to commit human rights abuses against civilians is a matter of fact. The Phoenix program and Operation Condor, for instance, were about the CIA and governments targeting civilians. During the Phoenix program in Vietnam, the CIA and South Vietnamese military abducted, interrogated, tortured, raped, and murdered civilians. During Operation Condor, from the mid-1970s to the mid-1980s, the CIA worked with South American governments to abduct, torture, and murder civilians. Some claim the agency has been involved in trafficking hard drugs globally. For about 70 years, the CIA has allegedly trafficked and protected traffickers of opium, heroin, and cocaine in a variety of countries. Mossad has also been in the opium and heroin trade for decades. According to researchers, the CIA, MI6, and Mossad work together for black operations, including trafficking cocaine and heroin. The CIA and Mossad have also been accused of creating terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The FSB, MI5, CIA, and Mossad are all suspected of or confirmed to have carried out false flags or terrorist attacks. Some of these agencies have a long history of such crimes and have worked together for these types of black operations. These agencies are not patriotic. Their primary concern is not protecting the people of their respective nations. They are criminal and terrorist groups. They are the security forces of this international banking royal bloodline crime network and have been known to work in unison for black operations. It seems logical to me that the criminals who control these ecocide machines and financial institutions that fund them would be using negative factions of the military and intelligence agencies that they also control to manage these campaigns.
I've determined that this international crime network is using the DoD, CIA, FBI, and other organizations known as the Interagency to wage the New World War that stealthily targets civilians with directed energy weapons, tactical psychological operations, and a combination of non-lethal weapons that amount to recurrent psychological and physical torture. When observing these ecological attacks, I've noticed some of the same cloaked weapons that will be described in Chapter 10 being used against targeted communities. There's also the related concept of transforming elements that are common to civilian settings into weapons systems. To me, this is compelling evidence because I know that they've done this before. It is their distinct signature, their modus operandi.
So on the administrative level, this global ecological war appears to be a black operation managed by negative components of the military and intelligence community.